Hello, I am Professor Charles Moewa, author of this book, Zambia Struggles of My People. In the last segment, I demarcated the colonial period into three. It was the company state, the protectorate state, as well as the colonial state. The shortest of those periods was the federal state, 1953 to 1963. Those short was the most ruthless of the three. Now, the problem of human rights in the protectorate state was rife, absolutely rife. Zambia had faced so many insurmountable difficulties. Lord Pasfield was appointed in 1935 to investigate the extent to which the Africans were suffering in northern Rhodesia. And his objective conclusion was that their human rights were in danger. They were actually already hacked. So when they went into the Federation in 1953, Africans were still being abused, relegated to servants, given no jobs that are higher than a shift lead in the mines, dying in numbers, not even being reported. They were used exactly the way they would have been used in the slave haciendas of Europe. But this time they were being abused on their own land. Europe had decided to come to destroy Africans on their own land. They were not human. Our forefathers were not human. They were simply things to be used by white Britons in the Federation. Now, the Federation was even a twist because it now started perhaps knowing that the life of Britain was short in Africa. The Federation were ruthless men who started simply to destroy the economy of these countries. The economic poverty of Zambia and many African countries were laid for Zambia in that period, because wealth was just going straight to the white establishments in Rhodesia and in South Africa. Rhodesia, I mean southern Rhodesia. The Africans at this time, they are tired. And the new generations cropped into the thinker generation of the David Siwale and others. Now it was the Kaunda generation. Enough was enough. And I'm going to expand on this by explaining several theories of independence. Because like it or not, and this is very important to my fellow African brothers and sisters, is that Europe and America have not done anything without a theory. What they are today comes from books. It comes from people's heads and brains, goes into books, and then government officials and politicians take them and enact them into laws. Before you realize, what was simply a thought is now a practice that is either destroying humanity or changing humanity. It goes both ways, right and wrong. A lot of theorizing about the black people of Africa came through writings of so-called thinkers. They thought of us, they came up with questionable experiments which gave them questionable conclusions that the black people were less than chimpanzees, were basically at the same level as chimpanzees, were just glorified human beings. Some, like the leaders of some European countries, like in France and in Spain, they considered Africans as firewood of hell. Now, if you come to rule such a people where you have already a theoretical background that is against them, you see them that way. It's a self-fulfilled prophecy. The way you cogitate in your mind is the way you treat people and behave when you meet them face to face. Our forefathers suffered. They were just animals, except that they didn't have tails, but they were animals nevertheless. So when we speak about these areas, the federal state, we are talking about the total domination and acquisition of African Zambian resources. Zambia could have been one of the richest lands now. But as we are going to see, if we take the example of Zimbabwe, it would be worse. By independence, most of Zimbabwe was being owned by white people. You remember the story of Robert Mugabe. Robert Mugabe had a point, and he was silenced and turned against his own people for trying to equalize land. I live in the West. If I came here to the West and grabbed the land from the ancestors of the Aboriginal people, and then I dominate these people, and then I call the land my own under my name, I take the children of these people and I turn them into my own name. I give them my last name. Basically, everything they owned is mine. The British people did that in Canada. They came to Canada, took the land of the Aboriginal people, took Aboriginal children, put them in classified residential schools, changed their last names, and forced them to behave British. And if they did not change, they were killed and buried sometimes at the very backs of the schools. These facts are being discovered now. The British did not do anything different. Their MO, modus operandi, was the same in Africa, in Zambia. Our forefathers, they came, took their land, even changed their names. My last name is Mwewa, but my first name is an English name. Because they thought our names were evil, were simply barbaric and demonic. So in the federation, the genesis of poverty in Zambia has been hatched. Now, in my next, we are going to build on how the federation was organized to take away, to scoop every little wealth that Zambia would have, so that by independence in 1964, Zambia was inheriting basically structures without functionality. We'll pick up on that in the next segment. Thank you.